The conference room aboard the Krellic Dominion ship shimmered with alien opulence. Fractal-patterned walls hummed with colors that shifted in response to sound, and a transparent dome overhead provided an unfiltered view of the stars. Tensions were high as Captain Zivak, a towering figure with translucent skin that pulsed faintly with light, stared across the table at the human delegation. The silence was broken only by the nervous chittering of Zivak's second-in-command, Frevin, who nervously tapped his six-fingered hands on the edge of the table. "Let us review the incident," Zivak began, his glowing eyes narrowing as he gestured at a holographic display. A video flickered to life, showing a group of humans on a barren mining planet. They stood before a leaking container, out of which poured a fluorescent green liquid. Instead of retreating, the humans had grabbed the liquid in metallic canisters, shaken it vigorously, and consumed it with apparent delight. Zivak paused the video at the sight of one human lifting a canister high into the air, yelling "bottoms up," before chugging the entire contents. "You drank it," Zivak's voice trembled with outrage. Across the table, Ben Carter, the human representative, adjusted his tie and offered a sheepish grin. "Not just drank it, we enjoyed it. That's Hardevolt, our best-selling energy drink." Frevin emitted a sound like a blender hitting a wrench. "Your species ingests toxic waste for pleasure." "To be fair," Ben replied, "we thought it was a lucky find. Hardevolt's always been bright green, and the fizz level was off the charts. It looked premium." Zivak's light dimmed in sheer disbelief. "You drink waste product from failed zirconium refining processes? That substance is so corrosive it dissolves most organic material on contact." Ben shrugged. "We slap a do not exceed 2 cans per day warning on the label, and we're good to go." The silence that followed was monumental. Frevin's color-shifting skin went pale, and Zivak seemed to sway slightly before catching himself. The Dominion had encountered humans before, strange, stubborn creatures with an uncanny knack for survival, but this was new territory. "We require an explanation," Zivak said at last. "And possibly quarantine." Ben leaned forward, placing his hands on the table. "Look, I get it. This seems weird. But energy drinks are a staple for us. They keep us awake, alert, and running at full speed, even when we probably shouldn't be. Hardevolt's just one of many brands back home. There's Surgecore, Nitromax, Blasium Blast, Turbocharge." His voice trailed off as he noticed Frevin shaking his head in slow disbelief. "This Hardevolt, you extracted it from the waste tanks on Volterra 9. Did you not?" Frevin asked. Ben nodded. "The colony there's always on the lookout for resources. When they came across a pool of the stuff, some bright spark thought, hey, this might make a killer drink. We gave it a test run, and it turns out it packs one heck of a punch. Better than caffeine." Zivak's translucent skin darkened to an ominous shade. "And what happened after consumption?" Ben hesitated, as though deciding whether to sugarcoat the truth. "Well, it does tend to make your heart race, and your vision might get sparkly, but that's part of the appeal." "Humans are mad," Frevin whispered to no one in particular. Zivak pressed a luminous hand to his temple. "You've not only consumed a substance that should be fatal, but you've also commercialized it. This could destabilize galactic trade. If other species attempt to emulate your actions, we could be facing interstellar lawsuits or worse." Ben waved a hand dismissively. "Relax, Captain. It's not like anyone else would want to drink this stuff. I mean, our physiology's built for extremes." "Extremes?" Zivak repeated flatly. "Exactly. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff we eat. Hardevolt's just a drop in the bucket." Ben pulled a can from his pocket, a smaller, human-sized replica of the industrial waste container in the video. "Here, try some." Frevin let out a high-pitched screech, backing several feet away. Zivak recoiled as well, though his movements were more controlled. "You would offer me this poison?" "Why not?" Ben grinned. "Think of it as a cultural exchange. One sip and you'll see why humans are such big fans." Zivak stared at the can as though it might leap at him and attack. "I decline." "Frevin." "I'd rather inhale vacuum," Frevin snapped. "Suit yourselves," Ben said with a shrug. He cracked the can open, releasing a faintly radioactive glow and a hiss of escaping gas. Tilting his head back, he downed half the can in one go, then wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Ah, that's the stuff. The Dominion officers watched in stunned silence as Ben sat there, perfectly alive and apparently invigorated. Zivak finally broke the silence. We will need to convene a panel to address this. Development. The galactic community must be informed. Take your time, Ben said cheerfully. In the meantime, if you're interested, I can get you a sampler pack. First one's free. Frevin muttered something that didn't translate well, but the tone was unmistakably one of exasperation. Zivak rose from his seat, his towering form radiating authority. We will escort you back to your ship. For now, this meeting is adjourned. As Ben followed them out, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of pride. Sure, humans might not have the advanced technology or telepathic abilities of their galactic peers, but they had something better and unshakable willingness to try anything, no matter how ridiculous. As Ben strolled back toward the human transport ship docked in the Dominion's hangar, he couldn't help but admire the sheer scale of the alien vessel. Its walls pulsed with faint light, seemingly alive, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. Frevin trailed behind, muttering darkly under his breath, while Zivak walked ahead, his movements stiff with tension. The escort stopped just short of the docking bay. Zivak turned, his glowing gaze fixed on Ben. You will remain aboard your ship until further notice. This matter requires immediate deliberation. Sure thing, Captain Ben said with a casual salute. He flashed a grin at Frevin. If you change your mind about that drink, just let me know. Frevin made a sound like he was choking on his own disgust. Without another word, the aliens turned and strode back down the corridor, leaving Ben alone with the faint hum of the ship's systems. Back aboard the dauntless venture, the mood was vastly different. The human crew bustled around the cramped interior, prepping for what Ben assumed would be the inevitable diplomatic fallout. Commander Dana Ortiz, the ship's no-nonsense leader, met him at the airlock, arms crossed, an expression somewhere between irritation and resignation. Carter, she began, please tell me you didn't hand an alien Hardevolt. Of course not, Ben said. Offered, sure, but they weren't brave enough to try it. Ortiz sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. Do you have any idea what kind of chaos this is going to cause? We're already on thin ice with the Dominion. Now they think we're suicidal maniacs who drink industrial runoff. It's not runoff, Ben corrected. It's artisanal. Crafted even. Her glare could have melted steel. Do you ever listen to yourself? Look, it's not my fault they don't understand the beauty of human ingenuity, Ben said, gesturing toward the small crate of energy drinks near the galley. We saw something glowing in a puddle and thought, hey, what if this could keep me awake for 72 hours straight? That's just who we are. It's who you are, Ortiz shot back. The rest of us are trying to keep humanity's reputation intact, not send it spiraling into galactic memes. Memes are powerful, Ben quipped, earning another exasperated sigh. Before she could continue lecturing him, the ship's comm system crackled to life. Attention, dauntless venture. This is Captain Zivak of the Dominion flagship Verity's Threshold. You are to remain in orbit. A council has been convened to address the situation. We will summon you when a decision is reached. Ortiz raised an eyebrow at Ben. Congratulations. You've escalated this to a full-blown council hearing. Ben opened a can of Hardevolt, the faint fizz cutting through the tension. They'll come around. Who wouldn't want a piece of this? On the Dominion flagship, the council chamber was abuzz with activity. Representatives from dozens of species floated, hovered, or sat in their designated spheres of influence. Each alien bore their own unique physiology, and quirks. The Gelkins shimmered like water, the Monrax towered on thin, spindly legs, and the Eltath pulsated with bioluminescent patterns. Captain Zivak stood at the center, his translucent form glowing faintly with agitation. Esteemed representatives, he began, his voice resonating through the chamber, we are here to discuss an alarming development involving the humans. A Gelkin, its voice rippling like waves on a shore, spoke up. Are you referring to their Dietary peculiarities again. This goes beyond peculiars, Zivak replied. They have consumed a substance that should, by all known standards, be lethal. Worse, they market it to their population as a recreational beverage. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of disbelief and horror. Lethal substances marketed as beverages, and Eltath exclaimed, its bioluminescent colors shifting to a bright red. This is surely a misinterpretation. No misinterpretation, Zivak said, gesturing to a hologram of the Hardevolt can. This is the product. Its main ingredient is derived from zirconium waste, an industrial byproduct so corrosive that it dissolves organic tissue in minutes. The Monrak representative leaned forward, their angular features sharp with curiosity, and yet the humans remain unharmed. They claim it provides energy, Zivak said, the word dripping with incredulity. Another Jelkin chimed in. Perhaps their physiology is more robust than we anticipated. Or Freven interjected, they're simply reckless beyond comprehension. Back on the dauntless venture, Ben was settling into a game of holo chess with the ship's medic, Dr. Mallory Pike. The diminutive doctor moved her pieces with practiced precision, eyeing Ben as though she were dissecting him. You know this is going to spiral, right? Pike said, capturing one of Ben's pawns. The Dominion's not just going to let this slide. It's not like we broke a law, Ben replied, moving his knight. We just bent their expectations. They think we're lunatics, she countered. And to be fair, they're not wrong. Before Ben could reply, the ship's comm buzzed again. This time the voice was less formal, tinged with nervous curiosity. Dauntless venture, this is Freven. I require additional context regarding the human beverage. Ben perked up. See? Told you they'd come around. He hit the comm button. Happy to help, Freven. What do you want to know? A pause. Then how is it that your species consumes a substance designed to annihilate organic life? It's all about moderation, Ben said, and a decent marketing budget. Another pause. Would it be possible, Freven continued hesitantly, to obtain a sample for analysis? Ortiz groaned audibly from across the room. Do not hand over. But Ben was already reaching for a can. Sure thing, Freven. I'll bring it over myself. Ben arrived at the airlock, can of Hardevolt in hand, ready to fulfill Freven's request. Ortiz intercepted him before he could step through. She blocked the door, her expression a mix of frustration and resignation. Ben, we are not turning this into an interstellar sampling tour, she said. Do you have any idea how badly this could go? Relax, Ben replied with a casual grin. Freven just wants to analyze it, science stuff. Probably going to dissect the can and write a scary report about how humans are unhinged. That's exactly what I'm worried about, Ortiz said, crossing her arms. The last thing we need is the Dominion labeling us as biohazards. Ben shrugged. Wouldn't be the worst nickname humanity's ever gotten. Before she could argue further, the comm buzzed again. Freven's voice came through, his tone unusually impatient. Human Representative Carter, please expedite the sample transfer. The council grows restless. Ortiz sighed, her shoulders sagging. Fine, but if this backfires, you're cleaning up the mess. Ben saluted with mock seriousness, slipped past her, and boarded the small shuttle that would ferry him back to the Dominion vessel. As the shuttle launched, he felt a flicker of excitement. Sure, this whole situation had the potential to explode in their faces, but that was half the fun. When he docked aboard the Verity's threshold, Freven was waiting. The alien's translucent skin had shifted to a pale, jittery hue that Ben was beginning to recognize as nervousness. Freven extended a containment field, a shimmering bubble of energy, into which Ben deposited the can with exaggerated care. There you go, Ben said. One genuine Hardevolt, handle with carrots loaded. Freven shot him a look that might have been exasperation, though it was hard to tell with an alien physiology. Without another word, Freven sealed the containment field and transported it down the corridor, leaving Ben under the watchful eyes of two Dominion guards. Ben turned to one of them, a towering creature with elongated limbs and a permanent scowl etched into its angular face. "You ever tried one of these?" he asked, nodding toward the retreating energy bubble. The guard didn't reply, but the flicker of disdain in its posture was answer enough. Meanwhile, Freven delivered the can to a secure lab deep within the ship. Several scientists, each more bewildered than the last, crowded around as Freven placed the Harda-Volt into a series of scanning devices. The results appeared on a series of screens, their alien script translating into dozens of blinking warnings. "Corrosive," one scientist muttered. "Radioactive traces," said another. "Volatile under pressure," a third added. Freven sighed, his pale color shifting to a frustrated blue. "And yet humans consume this willingly. We must determine how." One brave scientist activated a mechanical probe, which punctured the can and siphoned out a small sample of the glowing green liquid. The probe placed a droplet onto an observation slide, which immediately began to hiss and bubble. "Definitely corrosive," the scientist said, leaning closer. "But fascinating. Look at how it interacts with the substrate." The liquid wasn't dissolving the slide entirely, it was leaving behind a strange lattice structure, as though it were rewriting the material's molecular composition. The scientists murmured in awe, their confusion growing. "It's behaving like an energy amplifier," Freven said, astonished. "No wonder humans are so erratic." "Erratic? I'd say indestructible," a scientist replied. "This substance is supercharging organic material. Their physiology must absorb and adapt to the energy boost." Freven's skin shifted to a thoughtful green. "Perhaps this explains their resilience. They treat poison as fuel." Back in the council chamber, Zivak was delivering his findings to the gathered representatives. The holographic displays showed the chemical breakdown of Harda-Volt, complete with the alarming results from the lab. "As you can see," Zivak said, gesturing to the charts, "this substance is not only dangerous, it is highly unstable. That humans can consume it without immediate fatality is an anomaly that warrants further investigation." One representative, a bulbous creature from the planet Urox, wobbled forward. "If humans can process such substances," it said in a voice like squelching mud, "what does this mean for interspecies relations? Could they weaponize this resilience?" "We don't need to weaponize it," Ben said, strolling into the chamber uninvited. His sudden appearance caused a ripple of alarm, with several representatives recoiling. Zivak spun around. "Carter, you cannot simply barge into a council meeting." "Relax," Captain Ben said, holding up his hands. "I'm here to clear the air." He walked to the center of the room, aware of the dozens of alien eyes or equivalent sensory organs fixed on him. "Look, I get it. You all think we're crazy for drinking something that should probably melt us from the inside out. But that's just part of the human experience. We push boundaries. We try things that shouldn't work, and sometimes they do." A Monrak representative tilted its elongated head. "And when they do not?" "Well," Ben said with a grin, "we learned something valuable. Like, don't lick the glowing moss on Proxima Beta. That was a bad week." The chamber filled with murmurs as the representatives processed his words. Zivak stepped forward, his glowing gaze sharp. "This behavior, this reckless experimentation, is precisely why the Dominion views your species as unpredictable." Ben nodded. "And unpredictable is exactly what you want in an ally, right? Think about it. Who else is going to stumble across something like zirconium waste and turn it into a billion-credit industry?" Zivak opened his mouth to respond, but Freven interrupted, bursting into the chamber with a data tablet in hand. "Captain, the lab results are in." Zivak turned, frowning, and Freven hesitated, glancing at Ben before continuing. "The substance interacts with organic material in unprecedented ways. It amplifies energy output, enhances resilience, and appears to bolster cellular repair. The human's consumption of it, while reckless, may be why their species thrives under conditions that would destroy others." Ben grinned. "Told you it's good stuff." Zivak pinched the bridge of his semi-translucent nose. This does not excuse the irresponsibility of consuming it as a beverage. "Hey, we've got warnings on the can," Ben said. "We're not monsters." The chamber erupted into chaos once more, the representatives debating everything from human resilience to potential trade regulations. As the noise grew, Ben leaned toward Freven and whispered, "So, you want another can for the road?" Freven's skin flickered with mortified color, but he didn't say no. The council chamber eventually settled into an uneasy quiet as Captain Zivak raised a hand for order. His translucent skin pulsed faintly as he addressed the room. "It is clear that humanity's relationship with this substance, and with danger in general, is unique. However, we must consider the broader implications of their actions." A gelatinous representative from the Traltic collective bubbled audibly. "If humans have discovered a way to safely metabolize exoconium waste, might this not present an opportunity? The Dominion has long struggled with disposing of such materials." The Eltath representative pulsed a skeptical yellow. Opportunity? Or disaster waiting to happen? What if other species attempt to replicate their behavior? Not all are so durable. Zivak nodded gravely. "This is a valid concern. The human capacity for adaptation, while remarkable, is not shared by most galactic species. A misstep could lead to widespread catastrophe." Ben decided this was his moment to jump back in. He raised a hand casually, as though in a classroom, and without waiting for acknowledgement said, "Look, I get the hesitation. But we humans don't just gulp down mystery liquids for fun, okay? Maybe sometimes, but mostly we innovate responsibly. Sort of. The point is, we've turned what you call waste into a resource. That's got to count for something." "It counts as insanity," muttered Freven under his breath. Ben shot him a grin. "Insanity is just creativity without brakes." Ortiz, who had reluctantly joined the chamber after hearing Ben had inserted himself into the meeting, groaned audibly. "What my colleague is trying to say," she interjected, "is that humans can serve as a test bed for technologies or substances considered too dangerous for other species. We have an unmatched ability to adapt to extreme environments, and that includes unconventional resources." Zivak tilted his head slightly. "You propose that humanity act as guinea pigs for hazardous materials?" Field testers, Ortiz corrected, her voice firm. "And if we can make something viable, the rest of the galaxy benefits. Under controlled conditions, of course." The chamber erupted again, with voices overlapping in a chaotic mix of debate and skepticism. Ben leaned toward Ortiz, whispering, "Controlled conditions? That's a bit optimistic, don't you think?" Ortiz didn't reply, but her side eye spoke volumes. Freven approached Zivak, speaking in hushed tones. "Captain, while I find the humans' methods questionable, their results are undeniable. The lab tests suggest that their bodies neutralize and harness energy from the exoconium derivative. It's unprecedented." Zivak's glow dimmed as he considered this. And what if their recklessness inspires less robust species to emulate them? "We enact strict regulations," Freven said, his skin darkening to a serious hue. "But Captain, dismissing this outright would be short-sighted." Zivak looked from Freven to the assembled council, then to Ben, who was now attempting to balance an empty Hardevolt can on one finger. His sigh was audible. "Very well," he announced. "The Dominion will consider a pilot program, allowing humans to explore the applications of zirconium waste under supervision." Ben's skin clattered to the floor as he threw his hands up in triumph. "That's what I'm talking about. Humanity turning garbage into greatness since like forever." "Do not mistake this for unrestrained approval," Zivak warned. "You are to adhere to Dominion protocols at all times. Any deviation will result in immediate termination of the program." Sure, Ben said, nodding enthusiastically. "Protocols. Love those things." The Traltic representative gurgled. "Should the pilot succeed, this could revolutionize waste management across the galaxy." The Eltath representative, still pulsing yellow, muttered, "Or mark the beginning of the end." Several months later, back on Earth, the pilot program was in full swing. Hardevolt had expanded its operations. now working directly with Dominion scientists to refine and process exoalconium waste. A holographic advertisement flickered across a busy urban skyline, showing Ben grinning and holding up a can of the rebranded drink Hardevolt Ultra Galactic. From waste to wonder, the ad proclaimed, fuel your potential. Inside Hardevolt's gleaming new headquarters, Ben walked into a conference room, flanked by Ortiz and Freven. The latter had been assigned as a Dominion liaison, much to his ongoing chagrin. He carried a data tablet filled with grim statistics about the risks of the project, but his tone had softened over time. Your marketing is disturbing, Freven said, gesturing to the ad playing on a nearby screen. Fuel your potential. What does that even mean? It means it's working, Ben said, pointing to a chart showing skyrocketing sales figures. People love it. And we've cleaned up 3 Dominion waste sites already. Win-win. Ortiz crossed her arms, giving Ben a skeptical look. Let's not forget the 2 near meltdowns. Minor hiccups, Ben replied breezily. And hey, nobody melted. Freven sighed, his skin flickering between resignation and reluctant admiration. I never thought I'd say this, but your species' recklessness might actually yield results. If nothing else, you've made the impossible profitable. That's humanity for you, Ben said with a grin. Turning problems into profits since day one. Ortiz rolled her eyes. Just try not to blow up the galaxy while you're at it. Scout's honor, Ben said, holding up 2 fingers. Now, who wants a sample of the latest flavor? It's called Galactic Citrus Surge. Freven's expression turned horrified. No. Ortiz shook her head. Absolutely not. Ben popped the tab on a can and took a long sip, his grin widening. More for me, then. As the room filled with the faint hum of alien and human tech working together, Ortiz allowed herself a small smile. Somehow, against all odds, humanity had once again turned chaos into opportunity. And while the galaxy might never fully understand their methods, one thing was certain: humans were here to stay, and they were bringing Hardevolt with them. The stars had never seemed brighter or more caffeinated.